The biggest drug dealers in the world, they were patrons of the arts. Their name was a gilded stamp on the world's most prestigious institutions: the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Louvre, the Tate Modern. For decades, the Sackler family bought respectability, creating a public legacy of staggering philanthropy. But the fortune that funded this glittering reputation came from one place: the private pharmaceutical company, Purdue Pharma. The foundation of their dynasty was laid by the brothers Arthur, Mortimer, and Raymond Sackler, who bought the company in the 1950s. While Arthur's branch sold its stake early, the families of Raymond and Mortimer, including his son Richard Sackler, would ultimately own and run. Their real masterpiece wasn't a painting or a sculpture. It was a single drug, an opioid painkiller called OxyContin. Launched in 1996, OxyContin was not just a pill. It was a revolution in pain management, built on a lie. Purdue Pharma and its executives, including Richard Sackler, aggressively pushed the drug, assuring doctors that its slow-release formulation made it less addictive than other narcotics. Internal documents would later reveal that Richard Sackler encouraged a flood of prescriptions, once reportedly stating the company should hit them hard in the prescribing heartland, and that the prescription blizzard will be so deep, dense, and white. The company sponsored thousands of pain management seminars, and flew doctors to lavish resorts, showering them with gifts to encourage more prescriptions. Their deceptive campaign worked. As prescriptions soared, so did the death toll. America's addiction to opioids became the single greatest public health crisis of a generation. As the crisis escalated, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives, the Sackler family quietly extracted their profits. Over a decade, they pulled billions of dollars from Purdue, money they poured into their charitable trusts and, most visibly, into the arts. But the victims and their advocates refused to let the family hide behind their philanthropy. Artist and activist Nan Goldin, who survived her own addiction to OxyContin, founded the group PAIN, Prescription Addiction Intervention Now. They held stunning, guerrilla-style protests at the very museums the family had endowed. At the Met, activists staged a die-in, lying still on the floor of the Sackler wing to represent the victims of the overdose epidemic. The pressure worked. One by one, major institutions like the Louvre, the Tate, and eventually the Met itself, publicly removed the Sackler name from their walls. Despite the staggering human cost, no Sackler family member has ever faced criminal prosecution or spent a single day in jail. Instead, after years of litigation brought by state attorneys general, the family and Purdue Pharma used bankruptcy court as a shield. The Sacklers agreed to a settlement estimated to be worth over $6 billion. While this money is desperately needed for addiction treatment and prevention, it is a fraction of the estimated $10 billion they extracted from the company. The family was granted sweeping civil immunity, protecting them from future lawsuits related to OxyContin. Even though the settlement required them to relinquish control of Purdue Pharma, the family maintained their position that they acted lawfully, and apologized not for their actions, but for the fact that OxyContin unexpectedly became part of an opioid crisis. The biggest drug dealers in the world walked away with their freedom, their fortunes mostly intact, and their name wiped clean from the walls of the world's most famous museums. But the thousands of victims they left behind ensure that the world will never forget the real cost of the Sackler name.